like a winter apocalypse. It was great when it was freshly fallen snow and sub-freezing temperatures. There's the rooster. But now it's been melting, and so now there's ice around because it was cold last night, but then it's going to start melting, which makes it humid, and there's a little bit of a breeze. So, not as fun as last week. But hey, at least it's still white, so it still feels Christmassy. Hopefully it lasts till Christmas, but I doubt it. Hey, good morning, Royce and Jennifer. Glad you guys made it. So, I went to town this morning, and I didn't fill the fire up. I did a different fire this morning. And that's why I posted that the title of this is Richard Starts a Fire. Because I'm going to gather a little bit of firewood stuff. And, oh, hey, Nick. My neighbor's on. And Daryl, glad you made it. You weren't on last week. And JJ Johnson. This morning I did a lighter fire because I'm still trying to figure out how the best way to do the fire is without burning myself out of there. And this morning I just made a fire with dimensional stuff. And then I got this from a place down the road from me, and I put that on, and then I have my 2x4 scraps, which I'm almost out of. And really, that was the best. That was a good fire because it wasn't overwhelming, and I was even able to shut it down with hardly any firewood in it, and it kept me warm. So who would have thought that the main problem I'd have with this cabin is being too warm? So when I say 2x4s, I'm talking like stuff like this, the scraps that I bought, and stuff like this. So it's nice to be able to, I had somebody drop this off because they had a bunch of scraps and they dumped it here. I did pay for it, which sucks because it wasn't that great. But it's nice to be able to get firewood that way and be able to run the place off of it. So funny thing is, it's, like I say, too easy to get warm in here. So I went to town. When I got back, it was still warm, but the fire was out. There wasn't enough to really get it going. So now I got to start a fire. Daryl asked where the chicken is. You missed it. I put the chicken on at the beginning when I was walking, when I was showing the post-winter wonderland, the winter apocalypse. He's out there, out and about. Yeah, so I'm going to start a fire. And sometimes I use paper. Sometimes I use those thin little sticks, but I used them up and I haven't replaced them yet. Hey, good morning, Chris. Glad you made it. Hey, Justin, glad you made it. So right now it's kind of cold because I got the door open and the fire's been out. So my feet are cold. My feet are the main thing I deal with. So I sit up on my bed to try to warm my feet up. Nice. Dead Wolf Resistance got both his wood stoves going. I used to have a house with 2 wood stoves, and I felt like a wealthy man when I had both of them going. Which sounds dorky, but it was fun. Learned to enjoy the little things. Sometimes I use paper bags for fire. Hey, Harry. Glad you made it. Good morning. Haha. Yeah, so I went to town this morning because I got comedy tonight. So I was gonna do a rare go to the aquatic center and sit in the hot tub and the sauna, and then take a hot shower. Well, take a shower. That was what my plan this morning. I tried to go really early before the place is full because then it's more annoying. So I got down there. they opened late. They didn't even open because I was kind of in a hurry to do it and then get back in time. But then when I'm sitting there waiting for them to open, I remembered that I forgot my shorts. So it costs $12 to do it. Kind of expensive. In Bend, I can do the same thing for $8. But anyway, so I didn't want to pay $12 just to take a lukewarm shower because their showers are never hot. But the hot tub and the sauna are worth it. And so instead I bought some heavy whipping cream and then went and got some Mexican bread. And that's why I came back home to no fire. Because I didn't know I was going. Otherwise I would have built the fire up, put on something like that, and it would have been still going when I got back. Because I was only gone for about 2 hours total. Not even 2 hours. So anyway, that's my morning. That's why we're starting a fire. Let's see how this baby's going. I do this every morning. And I love, this is Douglas fir, and I love using it for firewood. If I'm fortunate, I get the smell. It smells like a Christmas tree, or it reminds me of my early teens when we had a sawmill operation, and it crackles and pops, but also it burns really well. It picks up quick, and it burns hot, and it's great for getting a good fire going. So I don't do any structural method. I just pile it on in a way that doesn't smother it, and I usually get a good fire going. And whoops, lately I've been sitting in front of it in the morning while I wait for my coffee. So alright, let's see, what do we got here for questions? Daryl retracted a message. Decided not to cuss me out, I guess. Craig Curtis, hey, good morning. I should be in Texas in a few weeks. That's my plan. Making myself coffee ready for this video. Cool. Luke Dixon, I'm going to make some coffee next. Hey, Brad, good morning. Saw you put out some good videos. Dead Wolf Resistance just harvested some fat wood. I have not figured out how to find fat wood. People say it's so easy, and I go out and I find these pine stumps where they say it all drains down, but it's always just bone dry, so I'm doing something wrong. I gotta spend some time just like figuring it out. Dead Wolf Resistance has ash. Yeah, I've heard that's fantastic firewood. I have almost a cord of it over at my other property. And I was looking forward to burning it this year, but maybe I plan to go out there when I get back from my trip, Arizona and Texas. But I don't plan to go back into that cabin because if I'm not there, and even when I am there, it's got a bunch of mice living in it. And right now, and I have to clean it when I go back, and this time I think it's beyond cleaning. And it might even be unhealthy. So when I go back there, I'm probably going to haul this trailer over, which I'd like to stay in my other cabin, but I have to gut it. I have to gut it when I've got money, and when I got time. I don't enjoy construction projects, but it would be cool to have that thing sealed up so it's mice-proof and well insulated, so I don't have to burn tons of wood to keep it warm. So maybe this year I'll get that done. We'll see. And see, I got smoke coming out. That didn't happen like the first week that I had it, and not that it has anything to do with how long I've had it, but I wonder if it has to do with the pressure outside, so it doesn't go up and out as fast. But also as it gets hotter, the smoke will reduce. Right now it's still getting warm. Alright, somebody, Dead Wolf's responding to the fat wood. Has to be red pine or similar resin species of evergreen. We got ponderosa pine primarily, and then we have a couple other kinds of pine, so maybe they're not the right types, I don't know. Steve Whitman says he uses wood stove for his only heat for a few years when he lived in Colorado. Just a cheap bellows made starting and reviving fires really easy. Yeah, a bellows would be nice. Over at my other property, we have these native plants that grow these tall stems, and you can snap them off. They dry, and they're like a straw. And over there, I use that, so I'd blow it on my fire, and that helped a lot. But what also helps a whole lot is a lot of thin, dry, really dry stuff, which I gotta go gather some more. I ran out of it. There we go, now it's getting nice and hot. Hot diggity. So I've been getting annoyed with my mornings. When I use this thing, this pot, or I should say, I use this pot for my coffee, and for a while I was putting it in here to heat it up, but it's so hard to get it on a hot spot. Sometimes I'd come back 15 minutes later thinking definitely it's going to be boiling by now. Nope, still not boiling. So finally I got annoyed, and I just used my propane burner. So I've been using that in the morning, but maybe I won't this time. I'll just see if that'll get it to a boil, because the other thing is I tend to put it in these precarious places, and then it burns too fast and it falls over, and that's really annoying. So Brad says, thanks man, I'll have another Snowy Mountain adventure posted later. Cool. I've been doing construction, making more shelves for my place so it can be organized. Yeah, I need to put a shelf up. I need another shelf, and then I think this place would be great. Ponderosa is very low res and it can work, just not very good. Oh, okay, well maybe that explains why I never find it. I gotta find some of the other types of pine, figure out which ones people find it on around here. Fatwood would be nice to have. Let's see. Everybody ready for Christmas? I'm not. If I had more solar batteries, I was gonna put up lights in here and put up a Christmas tree and decorate it. Maybe not a tree inside of here, but outside I was gonna do that. But I've got one solar battery. It's a 50 amp hour. And recently, my stupid solar controller quit working. So I'm having troubles charging things lately. And I hope to get those. I ordered a replacement and a backup. I ordered a replacement and a backup, and hopefully it'll be in the mail tomorrow or the next day. So I'm having charging problems right now. But it's not that big a deal. Winter solstice. Yeah, that's right. Today's the beginning of the longest. Oh yeah, today the days start getting longer, so that's exciting. Really happy about that. This is the worst of it. I was looking at Arizona and Texas, and right now the sun is setting here. I think it's around 4:30, essentially 4:30. It might have been 4:15, might have been 4:35. I don't remember, but basically 4:30 the sunset. And down in Texas and Phoenix, the sun sets at 5:25, and the sunrise is at the same time. I don't know why. Oh yeah, because of daylight savings time. But anyway, sunrise is about 7:30 roughly, and sunset is 4:30. But down there, sunrise is around 7:30 and sunset at 5:30. So automatically get an hour longer of daylight. And then if I'm down there for a month or 5 days, when I come back up here, it'll be even longer. Well, up here it'll probably be about the same. But anyway, it'll be nice and warm down there, and then I'll come back here, get to enjoy a little bit more winter. Depends on the winter. Who knows? Maybe it'll be a lot more winter. That happened one time. The first time I went to Texas. Yeah, the first time I went to Texas, Arizona and Texas, I was down there for a while. Was really happy that I was coming back here in March, because back then I hated winter. Now I love it. And I was so happy. But then I got back here, and it was this weird year. Everybody remembers 2017, where we were getting dumped on. We were getting snow and cold weather in March, and it sucked. So that was so frustrating. I went down there to avoid winter, and came back, and anyway. So now I don't care. Now I want to get back in time for some winter, because I want to get down there to enjoy the daylight and some warmth and get out of all the stupid fogginess and short days. And then I want to get back in time to have some more winter. So funny how things change. Trump ends daylight savings time. I would love that. It's pointless now. I mean, I get why we did it, but we're not an agrarian society anymore, unfortunately. But I think mostly it was just for school anyways, wasn't it? So kids could do their chores before they went to school. I hate school, and we don't have that same need these days, so it's time to do away with it. I'd rather have longer dark mornings and then longer daylight evenings. I think a lot of people feel the same way. So Trump wants to get rid of debt. Oh, okay. So I didn't know he actually said that. Sweet. Daryl says, you ever think about getting 20 Mustangs and get the $1,000 checks? Yes, I have thought about that. You could break them and maybe sell them to the trail riders. Yeah, I've thought about that. It's funny, you can actually make money breaking, and all you have to do is, I think you have to be able to lift their feet, halter break them, halter train them, and trailer them, and you make $1,000. But I also found out with that program, you have to find a buyer also. So you only get the $1,000 if you find the buyer or the adopter or whatever. It's a great deal. My thing is, I decided I didn't want to get into horse training, even though I thought about doing just a few in the wintertime. But also I've offered to people that they could do it here on my property. But again, I thought it'd be so easy to find people that would want to use my property, and I don't. But it all works out just fine. Also, because now a lot of things that I thought about doing, and I'm glad I didn't, because I didn't know at the time. I was doing that intuitive living type thing, where a lot of things I was just like, you know what? I don't know why, I can't explain it, but it just doesn't seem like the right thing to do right now. Like Airbnbs, I could be running a few Airbnbs, but it's more like, you know, I just don't think it's the right timing. And who would have? I would at the time I wouldn't have imagined that I was going to be making money, or that I'd have the possibility of making money doing comedy. And now it's shaping up that this year I could potentially be doing a lot of booked shows. And even though I'm not a headliner, because I live so cheap, that at the level I'm at, I could potentially almost live off of the money. And so it makes me glad that I didn't do other things to prevent that from being a possibility. So that's my big answer to the Mustang thing. But if somebody wanted to come here, I would get that set up because I think it'd be a pretty cool deal. And I like saving Mustangs. I think they're great horses from what I've seen. All right, comments, questions. I almost got my coffee going. Let's see. Gonzo Johnny says Trump wants to get rid of winter too. Brad says even back then it didn't make sense. Yeah, maybe it didn't. All one needs to end daylight saving time and stop changing the clock. You know, I think that way too. I think to myself, well, why don't I just ignore it? But I think I revolve around my clock too much. Maybe that is another level of escaping society that I haven't gone to yet. That would be ditching my phone, setting my clocks for my own time. But I think the fact that I'm going to do comedy and that I'm keeping a YouTube channel keeps me connected. Somehow I've always valued that, keeping up on what's going on. I don't know. What I need to do is I need to do that hunting trip that I've been wanting to do forever, is go up for like 5-6 weeks of hunting in the mountains. I've talked about it a lot. It's where I'd go up. There's bear season around here. Well, now I don't remember when it starts, but like August 15th or September 1st is bear season. You can get 2 bears. And then September 15th, grouse opens. And you can get 4 grouse a day, I think. 2 or 4 grouse a day. And cougar is open. And then around October 1st, deer opens. And then around October 9th, elk opens. So I could hunt all through September to the middle of October and conceivably live off of my hunting, and not to mention fishing. If I went to somewhere there's a lake with some productive fishing, then I could conceivably live off of my hunting and fishing for 6 weeks. And that's the idea. I didn't do it this year, although I could have, but I didn't because of comedy. But that's what I really need to do to take my break from society, because then I wouldn't have cell phone service. I'd probably take some pre-downloaded podcasts and stuff, but I'd spend a lot more time reading books, a lot more time learning to read nature. It's so fun up there hunting and tracking and getting used to finding animal movement. I love it. I just hate killing animals, so that's kind of my dilemma. But in that setting, I would do it. So anyway, I'll keep talking about it, and maybe eventually I'll do it. Hey, Casey. Casey made it. He's the one over in Idaho that's got... Casey, are you living on your property yet? Alright, hang on. I gotta get my heavy whipping cream. Oh, yeah. Speaking of heavy whipping cream, so a neighbor friend of mine, actually the people who I got Maximus from, and they give me... anyway, they got a milk cow and gave me some creamer. So maybe I'll make another cup of coffee. They want me to try that heavy whipping cream. Well, no, it's just cream. I need to whip it. So maybe I'll try it on the video this morning. I'll whip it up a little bit, make heavy whipping cream out of it. Heavy whipping cream, they say, is the same as normal cream. It's just been whipped, so it has air in it. And it does make a difference. So I'm going to whip some air into that. I'll make another cup of coffee. And they want me to see if it's any good. Cheers, all you who are enjoying coffee, water, or hot chocolate, or alcohol? Let's see. Alright, let's go back on these comments here and see what we got to say. Yeah, Gunzo Jenny. Stop changing your clock. Daryl says, yes, you plan your training to sell in March. Oh, okay. Got to hold them for a year, and a good trial horse sells 1,800 to 3,000. Oh, you have to keep them for a year. I forgot about that part. Dang. Oh, but okay, so they give you 1,000. Okay, so Daryl, do you keep all the money that you sell the horse for, plus $1,000? Because if you have to keep a horse for a year, the 1,000 barely pays for the hay around here. But if you're selling a horse for 3,000, then you make $2,000. So you can keep 10 horses, make 20 grand conceivably if they all sold for the 3,000 range. Of course, they always make it hard to make money off of it, so it's a tight spot. Steve Whitman talking about Trump and daylight savings time. I haven't heard whether he wants permanent daylight savings. Whoops, Doug got it. More evening sun in the winter too, or never daylight savings. Less. Oh yeah, I always get confused on the technical aspect. I just call it daylight savings time, but you're looking at the specific. So I just want the winter one to change. People should show up an hour late for work for a couple of days, and maybe they won't change time. Yeah. Yeah, and the prices of horses are still up anyway. Malik Dixon says you should host some swimming in the creek, some coffee, some history lessons. You'd make a lot of money. Oh, for Airbnb? Is that what you're talking about, Luke? Make kind of an event out of coming here? That's a neat idea. I would love to set this place up. I have a dream of putting up a saloon, an old-time saloon with a theater. And then having some Airbnb teepees and wall tents and kind of making it like an Old West Airbnb place. And I think people in my valley would come out. I'd like to make it a hangout for where people in my area could come and not have to spend $30 a person just to go out for a few hours and socialize. And make it, because I think that's something that we really lack these days is, socializing. Especially after COVID. You really see it in the comedy scene where people aren't going out like they did pre-COVID. And even though I didn't know about it pre-COVID, but from what I hear, people used to have shows all the time, and people were always coming out to the shows, and nowadays it's not recovered. So, and everything's so dang expensive. So I'd like to make a place for people to come. And then also Airbnb would be kind of cool. All the info needed to not go along their time. Clock time. Alright, you guys are talking. Let's see. Alright. Luke Dixon says, have I got a favorite book or genre? Genre. I guess my favorite is a good Western novel, honestly. Or classic literature. I love finding a book that I cannot put down. The reason I'm not reading all the time is I don't put it down. And then I end up just laying around reading all day long, and my dogs barely get fed. And I feed them. That's about the only time I stop reading is to start the fire, feed the dogs, and then run back to my book. When I'm in a book that I like that much, like Cormac McCarthy, and then for classic stuff I read Alexander Dumas, The Count of Monte Cristo, and then I read The Three Musketeers after it because I was so enthralled with that Count of Monte Cristo book. It took me like 3 weeks to read it. And And then some Western authors like Mike Blakely. He's a dude in Texas, writes awesome books. And but right now I got back into reading the Bible and Nietzsche, which is kind of a funny contrast of those two. But someday I'm going to put out videos on Nietzsche and why he's not, well, he might have been himself. He was anti-Christian, but why his anti-Christian take is not as anti-Christian as we think, which sounds like I'm trying to be overly impressive about that, but all I'm saying is his take on Christianity is the same as like Sam Harris or anybody else that criticizes Christianity. They're criticizing what I call state religion. And no, it's not a formal state religion these days, but it's essentially religion that that holds up the state. The state being Western civilization, which I also want to talk about one day. Ken, hey, glad you made it. Arizona Traditional Outfitters. Hey, man, I'm going to be in Arizona, planning to be there in a little over a week. But I'm not going to be there long. I'm going to run to Texas, and then I'm going to come back to Arizona and plan to spend at least a week or two is what I'm thinking right now. Cheers. Thanks, Gonzo. Glad you had that. Casey, had to winter down lower for this year. Oh, bummer. Winter's the best part, but it does definitely take preparation, especially when you're up where Casey is. I head back up in April or May. Cool. I was primarily living off the land as soon as hunting opened. Okay. Yeah, I was wondering how much of that you were doing, because of course I love seeing your posts. JJ Johnson says, don't whip it too much or it'll be buttermilk. Yeah, agreed. If I whip the cream too much, it becomes butter, but that takes a lot of whipping. Unless you use a drill. Then it only takes like 5 minutes. Arizona Traditional Outfitters says you get the $1,000. We're going back to training Mustangs here, people. You get to keep the $1,000 for a year. Oh, you get the $1,000, keep them for a year, sell what you want to sell them for, and the money is yours. Oh, okay. Okay, so they give you the $1,000 to cover expenses, essentially, and then you sell it. Okay, so then you could even sell it for $1,000. If I did 12 of them a year, I could live off of that, because 1,000 is about enough to live off of. Plus, since I have pasture, I could actually come out ahead on the 1,000 probably. But essentially, I calculate about $90 a month for horse food. Yeah. It's funny to think I could be making money training Mustangs, but I'm not. Dead Wolf Resistance says sign me up. Sign you up on selling horses or on daylight savings time. Luke Dixon says, yeah, lots of people host to make more money because of them, like Wim Hof. Oh, interesting. Daryl Isley says, girls in your saloon. Yeah, that'd be nice. Maybe. Yeah, let me keep my mouth shut. Yeah, buttermilk. What buttermilk is the milk that once all the cream, all the protein solidifies into butter, then the milk that's remaining is buttermilk. Steve Whitman says he loves the Old West Experience Airbnb idea. Thank you. Yeah, I really want to do it. I've entertained the idea of doing a Kickstarter for it, but there's two ways of doing it. One is to build a barn that looks like an Old West saloon and actually use it for a barn, but then just invite people out every weekend. Or to go full out according to what the county requires for a business. But that would take, I could build up a cheap saloon for like 20 grand, a barn, but to build it the way that the county requires it, I have to dig a well, which is 60,000 bucks right there. Got to bring in the power, which is probably another 5,000. Got to put in septic system for the bathrooms, and that's another 10 or 15 grand. And then got to build the building to code for human use, which makes it way more expensive. So now I'm kind of holding off. It's really frustrating in my county. The problem is that there's people here where if I build it, there's enough people to man it. Where if I went to Nevada, I could buy 40 acres for $15,000 and then build up whatever town I wanted to. But you're 4 or 5 hours from the nearest town of any sizable worth. And so it's like, just build up a town for me to hang out in. I'd build a saloon for me to hang out in, but to build up a whole town Airbnb thing, there just wouldn't be the people to keep it going. Bring the rooster. Yeah, for sure. Let the rooster strut around. Down in Lukenbach, Texas, they got chickens wandering around. Lukenbach's a cool place. But what I hate about all these tourist places is there's nowhere you can just go and hang out and make it social. Lukenbach, kind of. I'm usually there when it's like the colder weather, so I don't get to see the best of Lukenbach, because it is a hangout town. It's essentially a little ghost town that is for hanging out. But there's a little bar where you play music in, but then that was too crowded, so they opened up a side room where now the music is over there, and then the wood stove and the bar it's a small one. But everything else is just gift shops. All the buildings are just gift shops and a dance hall, where there's nobody that, even in Tombstone, honestly, last time I went to Tombstone, I hated it there, because all these cool buildings are just full of all this tourist junk, like just crap, overpriced crap. And there's nowhere that you can just like walk in and get the Old West experience, like, hey, give me a whiskey and hang out for a while. There's a couple of bars there, but they're overcrowded, and they're more bent on serving food, making it a restaurant experience than like just a hangout. I haven't been there since the Oriental was turned into a place. I don't think it was when I was there. But I don't know if even there, if you can just hang out. Chris, you probably know this, if Rivera's still watching. Well, or Justin. I don't know if you can go in the Oriental and hang out now, or if you have to buy tickets. Dead Wolf Resistance says he could help build. Dude, hey, sounds good to me. I love nice knife and sword stuff too. Are you a blacksmith? Because one of my desires would be to build up a blacksmith, Old West blacksmith thing, and have somebody do blacksmithing out of it. Daryl Isley says too many Airbnbs. Yeah, there's a bunch of Airbnbs, and Airbnb sucks anymore. I got one when I was in Texas once, and it sucked. And then I couldn't get my money back. I had to prepay for it. Found out the place was a dump. The AC, the whole reason I got it was for the air conditioning, so my dogs could stay cool. And the room was hot. It had the sun beating right down on a window, and was keeping the room warm. And even though he told me it was AC and it would stay nice and cold, I complained to Airbnb, and they said, well, screw you. Bed and breakfast to make both. Makes sense. Is Nietzsche your mustache inspiration? No, my mustache inspiration, let's see, first started, well, probably with Tombstone. And when I was younger and religious, I saw pictures of Nietzsche. I knew who he was, like how he was like the Antichrist. But then I saw pictures of him and I was like, well, he can't be all bad. Look how cool he looks. And but then I also recently found out that his big unkempt mustache like mine was that was after he lost his mind. Apparently, from what I read, he always kept his mustache in better shape. But then when he lost his mind, his sister let his mustache grow out like that, like mine. But I like mine unruly. It does look good when people take care of their mustaches, though. But since I'm barely trying to meet any women, I just let it go. But yeah, good question on Nietzsche there. Yes, being a statist and wanting to obey all their made up rules is very expensive. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Problem is, I'm stuck more than intuitive living. I don't have any desire to leave Washington right now. Or more like I don't feel a blessing to leave Washington. And trust me, I've done the wrong thing most of my life. And it's worth it to just do what I think is the right thing. And again, I call that intuitive living. I don't try to explain it with logic, just that it works. And it's a lot better to live within it than outside of it, in my experience. That was good coffee. Pretty soon I'm going to have to go get a jar, but I don't want to leave my fire. It's keeping me warm. I have to keep the door open. All right, let's see here. I love all the creative names we got here going. All right, let's see. Well, I've been lied to how buttermilk is made then. Glad I never tried it. Well, I don't think it hurts it to add vinegar and whatever, if that's what you're talking about. I think it could still be buttermilk, but its very essence. It's just the removal of the butter. Soon, for most people, it'll be too expensive to stay in a status. Taxes and inflation are only going up. Well, we'll see. We'll see if Elon and Trump are able to make improvements, or I do hold fears that Trump and Elon will mostly just make things better for the wealthy. I don't think that's going to happen. I just don't have an opinion on it. I think it's good to go into everything cautious. Approach everything cautiously. And I think Trump's not a bad person, but business people, they just think different than non-business people. I've been in both worlds. And that's more where my concerns come from. And one day I'll do a video series on how I don't think America is supposed to be business oriented like we are. Well, we're supposed to be, but not like the way that we are. My last name means blacksmith. Isley? What nationality is that? Isley. Huh. Justin, hang out in the Oriental for free. They have a stage show a few times a day that takes tickets. Do you have to leave when the stage show starts then? But also, definitely the Oriental has become an improvement. It used to be just a shop full of junk. I think they had gas station knives that they were selling in there. And that was the improvement on what it used to be. But now it's a now it's a bar and a performance place. Jeff Ramblin says, good morning. Hey, glad you made it. Dead Wolf Resistance goes through a lot of mustache wax. Yeah, that's something I actually want to start making. That's something I thought about making and selling, because I've made some and it worked well and it smelled good. You can use it. You could use it a lip balm, hand lotion, mustache wax. Brad says, hates when mustache gets long, gets in my mouth, and catches all my food. Yes, before when I started growing my mustache, I would eat these croissant sandwiches at the coffee shop I went to, and I'd bite down, and it would pull like crazy. It hurt so bad, so I had to learn how to eat with my lip projected out. It's annoying, but it does take care of it. But that is the worst part, eating and drinking. Yeah, Arizona Outdoor Traditional Outfitters, or Arizona Traditional Outfitters also. Yeah, the worst part, I don't know if you saw me when I was drinking my coffee, even then I was getting drips in it. It's so annoying. And then you try to wipe it off with your hand, and um, it is rough. It's rough having a big mustache, but to me it's worth it. Chris says, with great mustache comes great responsibility. Walk tall and carry a handkerchief for keeping your face clean. That's true. I could carry a handkerchief. When I go to like a coffee shop, I grab a napkin to dry it off after every time. Great mustache comes great responsibility. That's true. Just man up, guys. I guess actually, if I waxed it and trained it, that would help too. Oh, Tom Fisher, somebody, are you the one that asked me before? Can I talk about and show my saddles? It looks like maybe you had one or two 1860s era reproductions. I did have. I sold my saddle with a horn on it to a buddy out in Pennsylvania, and I wish I had one like that. But now all I have is my McClellan. I really want to find, but the whole process of getting a properly fitting saddle is such a nightmare, and ideally I would have a tree made, but it's such a nightmare trying to get a tree made. But I do really want to get a horned saddle again. All I have, like I said, is my McClellan. Daryl Isley proposed making the work week 48 hours before paying overtime to combat inflation. Hopefully there's a better way. I don't know. Justin says the bar is always open at the Oriental. You can hang out in the theater room when there's not a show going on. Oh, okay. That's cool. That's really good. I gotta check that out. Brad says he does carry a handkerchief, but a clean face can just throw water, and it's good. Well, quit being so lazy, Brad. It's not easy being a man. Even a man with a mustache is still way easier than being a woman. No offense to any woman that might be watching. It's not an offensive thing, it's just a fact. JJ Johnson says that's funny, but it was probably about something that somebody said 10 or 15 minutes ago. Oh, no, probably about the mustache and responsibility. All right, we caught up on the questions. Now I wish I could remember what I wrote down to talk about. I keep notes. I keep notes on my phone for the upcoming video, but I forgot to transfer them to my other phone, so now they're on here and I can't see it. So instead, let's go get a jar and some water so I can make some whipping cream. Also, it's raining, and that sucks, but I don't complain too much about the weather. Whatever miserable weather is going on outside just makes being inside so much more, like I say, or I'm have to use a broom to get out where it's. But see, it's still white around here, so it's nice. Harry Anderson says, I've seen women with some pretty fine mustaches. Oh, shoot. I think I just got rid of, I had an egg beater that I bought for, oh no, there it is. I kept it. Good deal. All right, so I got a jar. Let's see if the egg beater fits in it. I took a load to the dump yesterday and I thought it went with it. Not gonna fit. Maybe it will if I jam it down in. Yep, there it goes. Alright, sweet. Let's go make some whipped cream. Whipping cream. I can't bring myself to throw away my old stove. I went to the dump yesterday and I left it here, but see, here's where it was bad. That's how bad it was. It's like that on both sides. I thought about getting something here, a long metal thing to... Anyway, I don't miss it. Well, like I say, I'm having a hard time throwing it away because it's nice to cook on. Like if I set up my teepee, it's still an improvement in my teepee than over nothing. And it looks cool. Honestly, even just leaving it sitting around outside kind of looks cool. Alright, let's do this whipped cream, see what happens. Let's see what happens. Alright, what do we got here? Daryl's asking about the chicken. I think the chicken's hiding underneath the trailer. One of the trailers. Horse trailer or this trailer. Brad says, I have a point. Hey, I actually use a straight razor for 2 years now. Oh, that's freaking cool. So I do get lazy about shaving. But once I shave, it all comes off. I'm riding the razor edge. Alright, yeah, I do have to take back the lazy part then if you're using a... Uh-oh, look at that. I don't know if this is going to reach. Might have to do something else. Could put it in here maybe. Yeah, I'm going to put it in there. After I did what I could to squeeze it in here. I guess I can squeeze it back in if I have to. Yep, that'll work. Alright, I'm going to be out of view of the camera. But you'll have to just trust me that, and I'll show you the results. Alright, let's see. Yeah, I want to get into straight edge razor too. Right now I use electric clippers, so I never get a clean shave on my face. I just take it as down as far as my clippers will allow, and let it grow out. I think I've got a couple weeks on it now. I don't remember. That's a pretty good taste. Yeah, this might work. The last time I tried this in my coffee, some whipping cream, it wasn't very good. So, oh crap. Something just fell into it. Alright, here we go. I'm gonna whip the cream. Hopefully it works. Can you hear that? That's the egg beater going at it. Hey, we were just at 30 viewers, now we're down to 20. I guess it got boring. Alright. Alright. Oh shoot, I gotta get the water going too. Oh crap, I got paint chips coming off. That's what happens when you leave it out in the weather, I guess. I don't want these paint chips falling into my... it's probably lead paint. My goodness. Well, I wish I could remember what I was going to talk about. Thanks, Luke. Yeah, seriously. I can not remember what I was going to talk about. So if you got any more questions about Nietzsche, Wealth of Nations, Christianity, we can get back into that kind of stuff. But a lot of people that criticize Christianity, like I said, they criticize the state religion, like what Christianity has become, which is a very valid complaint. It's just that, like, what I've come across so far about Nietzsche, I don't want to talk about Nietzsche like I'm well educated on him. I've only read part of one of his books so far. And I've listened to some videos on him, but I want to know firsthand about him. So anyway, Nietzsche developed the philosophy of the Overman, the Übermensch. And he said things like Jesus is the only real Christian. All the rest are basically pansies, is essentially what his belief is that I've put together so far. And I get why he says that. Like, his criticism, his overman philosophy, when I read it, I'm thinking to myself, well, yeah, that's exactly what Christians are supposed to be doing from what I've read. Oh, good. Luke Dixon, you've read Beyond Good and Evil. That's what I'm reading right now. It was kind of boring, the part criticizing the other philosophers. I got kind of bored with that, but then I got through that part and it's been more interesting. But anyway, his Overman idea, the Ubermensch, is essentially what Jesus was, so far from what I've got out of it. And from what I've understood, like, Nietzsche didn't talk really badly about Jesus. He talked badly about religion. And now the thing is, Nietzsche was alive like 1870, 1880. That's when he was doing most of his philosophy. And so he was critiquing the church that he saw at that time. And the Catholic Church, not to put specific hate on them, but through the medieval days and the Dark Ages and all that, you know, that's when the Catholic Church really went heavy on. This is my understanding so far. I'm not an expert on all this. I want to dig into it deeper. Hey, thanks. Somebody just said you got another sub. I hope you're still there, even though we're talking about Christianity right now. So Nietzsche was... The church really went heavy on what I would call the control measures, and that's what the majority of complaints about Christianity is, that its religion is made to control people and that kind of thing. And we'll get to why Nietzsche said that Christianity was weak people. I'll get to that. But obviously, if you're going to be controlled, then you have to be weak. You have to be in a weakened state. It doesn't mean people are actually weak. It just means a weakened state or a weakened mindset. And that's when the church got heavy on that. And then as a result, Martin Luther rebelled against it because he saw some ridiculous stuff going on. You know, like, I mean, how stupid to tell soldiers, hey, if you go down and fight in these holy wars, then you get forever pardoned from sins and can go to heaven no matter what. That's just I mean, they put it in different words. And it was stuff like that that Luther saw. Luther did his pilgrimage. He saw the priests sleeping around with prostitutes and nobody taking it seriously. And people and selling indulgences. Like, from my understanding, that stuff got really carried away during the time of peasantry, and when everything was a monarchy, kings and queens were ruling everything, and the Pope was vying for power against kings and queens. And one of my, and so, alright, I think I made this into whipping cream. I'll do it a little more. And so, that's the Christianity, essentially, that Nietzsche was criticizing. Like, it got a little bit better, I think, because once Calvin and Luther separated from the Catholic Church, I forget the name of it, for crying out loud, you know, when the big split. But even then, those churches just went up to create their own controlling religions, because that was the mindset of the West, Western civilization. That was the mindset, was how do you have rulers and followers? And my theology that I get from what I read in the Bible is, especially from the book of John, is that Jesus in the book of John, I'll do a video on this someday, But he says that no longer will you need me, because I'm going to send to you the one who talks to your heart, the Holy Spirit. So essentially, Jesus was saying, you don't need me. You're going to have direct connection to God. That's the point of Jesus' mission, is to put people in direct connection to God. And when you read the Old Testament, that was God's goal. He set up judges so that Israel would live as a theocracy, but then Israel didn't like that and asked for, oh wow, this has turned out great. Almost went too much, if anything. So then Israel complained and they wanted a king, and so finally God relented. A lot of people don't understand this. It's kind of a complex part about the Old Testament of why God told them you're not going to have a king. And then he says, but when you do have a king, this is how he needs to rule. And it's because, and that's where we get the character of what we're supposed to believe, I should say. So anyway, Jesus' whole point was to connect us to God. Like humans, we always think that there's obstacles. What do I have to do to get close to God? And Jesus says, here's the last of the obstacles. I'm a sacrifice, breaking down every barrier. It's just you between God. And then what happened with the Roman church? Obstacles, obstacles, obstacles. You can't talk directly to God. You really should go through these saints. They're more equipped to talk to God, which is contrary to the act of Jesus and the purpose of Jesus. And so my point here, the reason I'm bringing this up, I'm glad we still got viewers talking about religion, is that the Ubermensch is essentially the man who connects directly to God and isn't controlled. He thinks for himself, he acts for himself, which is like Jesus. Jesus thought for himself and he was killed for it, but he went and fulfilled his mission that he believed God called him to. And that, I believe, is what the Christians are supposed to be. And my own life reflects it. I was supposed to live like this when I was a teenager. And throughout my life, I had like this pressure that I was supposed to live like this. But I kept pursuing the world, as we call it. I was pursuing money, and I had a whole rationale as to why it was the right thing to do. It wasn't out of selfishness or greed. It was all about how, no, this makes more sense the way I'm living. Finally, my life got so bad, so miserable, and I saw this as what I wanted to do, because I always wanted to do this. I just was weak. And then finally I gave up, and I did this. Gave up. So that's where the sacrifice your life is. But Christianity teaches people to think sacrificing means going without. I don't believe that for a second. Jesus' life wasn't about, oh, I can't do fun things. It was about, what are you called to? You're called to give up a normal life and follow what you're called to. And the irony is there's more joy and completeness in following that. Now, does everybody have that call on them? I don't know. That's my question. But I know in my life, that's what I've experienced, and it's what I see in the Bible, and it's what I see Nietzsche essentially describing. His complaints are the same as my complaints, is that the church teaches people to follow and doesn't empower them to go out and be strong. They certainly didn't with me. I had to leave the church before I could get close to living my life. And that's a whole story as well. And I was very devoted to church. I never missed a Sunday, even if I traveled somewhere, other state. I did a 3-week fast in the forest in pursuing God. So it's not like I was just some guy who was inconvenienced by Christianity. I was very devoted to it and never got any fulfillment out of it. And have been really glad that I left. So anyway, that probably brings up more questions than it answers. But I'm glad we haven't lost everybody. The secret... The guy, you said that you're a new subscriber. Yours comes up as deleted. That's what your screen name says. So I don't know if that's intentional or whatever. I mean, you said it was your ghost channel. So I'm going to call you deleted. Outdoor videos with Brad says, I had the movie Martin Luther. Yeah, I liked that movie. I liked when it came out. That was cool. Deleted says, remember everyone, the chosen people of God get to do whatever they want. In a sense, that's true, but it takes a long explanation. Casey, Diet of Worms, thank you. I'm terrible with names and specifics, and that's intentional also. Daryl Isley says, I heard something like that. Send me $500. I got a leg out of hell. Send me another $500 to get the other leg out. Yeah, exactly. And they need money to remove. Yep, exactly. Gosh, I used to always be broke, always working hard, miserable at my jobs, doing jobs I hated, always devotedly giving more than 10% to the church, and then watching them live like kings and living these nice lives, and no wisdom for me and how to live my life better. Such a waste. I have very little respect for, not for Christianity, but for modern Christianity. They're so caught up in consumerism and egos. I could go on and on with stories, but I won't right now. But I've also got to see the dark side of religion. What happens, because my whole family is kind of a rebellious type family, and you get to see just how much out of fear Christianity teaches people to live. Like when I was a Christian, religious I call it, like we thought that it was as though people who didn't go to church, as if like the mentality, I've heard other people talking like this, like the way that you perceive people outside is like that they're constantly having orgies and just evil. And then when I quit being religious, I started making friends with people who weren't Christian. I realized, well, these people are decent people. They all have morals. They all aren't, I mean, there's exceptions, of course. I mean, people telling kids to whack off their genitals. I don't mean whack off in the fun way. But cut off their genitals, that's evil. But a lot of people, that's just misguided. So anyway, the point was that Nietzsche complained about people being weak, and I think it's a very valid complaint. But the difference is that his complaints are valid, but it's not what Christianity is supposed to be. It's what he was critiquing what Christianity had become. And very few people acknowledge that. I've tried to have discussions on Reddit. Reddit's a very difficult place to have discussions. All right, it's time to, the coffee water is boiling. It's time to, bam, make more coffee and see how this whipped cream tastes. These days I can't drink coffee like I used to, so I'm just going to make a smaller cup. All right, we got viewers. We're hanging in there. Let's see. Live like an ant, no leader, ruler. Yes, absolutely. Daryl Isley. Yes, and that's a fantastic point. Israel was supposed to be a theocracy, and this is what's beautiful about America. We're essentially a rulerless nation. We're a nation ruled by the people, and there's a lot. I think it's fantastic. Not because we can then instate. It gives the people the option. But anyway, the point is, we aren't supposed to have a leader. And that's why all of this hero worship, like George Washington, cool guy. But I don't hold him up here like I used to. Hero worship is part of that control. And I think that's why the Catholic Church does it with the saints. Like, you set up a standard, like you guys don't live up to this. It's like to always hold up the standard, that reminding people that you don't live up to it. Because when you Now, if the standard is God, that's one thing. But when the standard is other humans, then it's a source of control. I mean, it can all be used for control. All of it can be used as a source of control. But I think that's... so yes, Daryl brought up a great point. We have no leader. I'd love to go through the book of John. Deleted is my name. Okay, cool. So that is intentional. Yep. Deleted says all he ever got from that church is I'm going to hell. Yeah. Oh, gosh. What a waste. I mean, we're supposed to be... Spiritual leaders are supposed to be guiding people in how to live for God. And I think, and this is something I respect about the Orthodox Church, even though I wouldn't go to the Orthodox Church, but they aren't... They're very controlling, but they're also very helpful in helping their people live their lives. And I have a lot of respect for that. Like, they're not as legalistic as Protestantism is and fearful of the world. Like, they have people who, for one, they control the number of congregants, so they don't become their pastors, their leaders, whatever, don't become superstars, and they help people to understand how to live. But anyway, which is how a good community should be, where you have people who are older and wiser helping to steer you in the right way. I've had some good relationships with, I've had some good experiences in church too. Like, somebody helped me move to Spokane, but I wish they would have helped me find my call on my life. But they didn't. But I had some great times in church, actually. And when I was a little kid, I loved it. I loved the get-togethers with old people and young people and everybody in between. As a little kid, I absolutely loved that. And the Christmas services, stuff like that. Whoops, I got it. Okay, let's read some more comments here. Good comments coming in. Harry says, seems like organized religion promotes do what you want all week and be forgiven on Sunday. Yeah. I mean, do what you want. I've run into problems with that. Where a lot of judgmentalism. But basically stay out of my life, I think, is maybe more what you're saying. Alright, I'm trying the creamer. That's how it came out. Look at that. Which is essentially whipped cream. But whipped cream is good in coffee. Alright, we're going to give it a try, and then I'll get back to the questions. But, yeah, it's like all they care about is that you're going to church, to go off of what Harry's saying. Like, I used to be really depressed. I was suicidal. Well, no, I wasn't suicidal, but I used to think about it, like I was that kind of depressed. But if you know about suicide, I wasn't really suicidal. But I was depressed, and I found no guidance in the church, and I reached out a lot. Every pastor I met, I'd try to tell him about my problems, but ultimately what the problem was, I wasn't living the life that I was supposed to be living. And had anybody walked me through that, they could have guided me in that. But the problem is that I see, they don't know. Very few, they don't even know. I had to quit going to church, and then I paid this company that takes you through personal development workshops. A friend and I did it. I ultimately paid $10,000, which was a ton of money to me at that time. Within a couple of years, it wouldn't be a ton of money to me. And I have no regrets of doing it, but that's what it took for me to find some help to get my life sorted out and in the right direction. Ever since then, my life's been going up, 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 and up. I quit going to church around 2011, and that's around the same time that I started going to these workshops. And ever since then, my life's been, like I said, on the way up. And like I say, it wasn't because I didn't make an effort when I was in church. I talked to every pastor I could, every elder I could, and they had nothing to say. The best I ever got was this one pastor who told me, well, you've got a ton of insecurities. And that's all he said. But at least that gave me something to focus on. I was like, okay, well, that's all he gave me, so I'll just go with that. And that did help, but it's like, really, that's all you've got? Cheers, let's see how this tastes. It's tolerable. The thing is, it's not blending like the other stuff. It's more like I got a layer of foam on the top. And I've used whipped cream in my coffee before and it blends well, but I think that's the deal. I think I whipped it too much. See if I can get the liquid. But as far as the taste seems really good. So they're going to be happy to find that out. I'm happy to find that out. Hopefully I get some more from them. But they only got one milk cow. And they got baby goats and stuff to feed with it. So I don't know how much I'll get, but this is pretty exciting that it tastes good. Let's see. All right. Seems like organized religion promotes do it. Yeah. All right. Kay, hey, thanks. Well, if your wife is listening, thank you. I appreciate that. I really want to do videos on this stuff. So if I keep getting positive feedback, that'll encourage me to do it. Like, this is the stuff I'm passionate about. I do love my history and camping. Like, none of that has been fake, obviously. It's a genuine love. But this is the stuff I'm, like, most passionate about. Arizona Traditional Outfitter says, the problem with Christianity is it's about tradition and rules. The relationship with Jesus is personal. Yes. And even though they'll tell you, yeah, it's all about a relationship, they don't know. They don't have jack squat understanding about it. And I don't hate anybody. Like, when I talk about Christianity, this is not about the people who go. Like, they have problems, but it's not their fault because they're just learning what they're taught. I went to Bible school when I was 18 or 19. I think I was 19. And that's when I had my first run-in, like, obstacle of thinking, maybe this is all fake. When I went to Bible school, because I thought we were going to go there, because I had been meeting with my pastor through my teens on a regular basis. He would teach me how to study the Bible, and I thought I was getting guidance. In retrospect, that's a whole nother story there. I don't know if he did more bad than good. He was very insecure and took a lot of it out on me. And but anyway, I was trying to be like Timothy, grow up, be a good Christian. And I wasn't chasing girls and all that stuff that I wanted to do when I was a teenager, that normal teen does. So then when I went to Bible school, I was all excited. And that's where I realized, wow, none of this is about how to be a Christian. It's all about, like, I'd watch people argue. That just blew my mind. These people arguing over what the Bible said. And I'm thinking, why are we arguing? Why aren't we just discussing it and trying to figure it out? I mean, there's ways to study the Bible. And these people get mad at each other. One guy slammed down his book and walked out. And that's just one example. It was all about just knowledge. And the Bible talks about wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. And knowledge is the least valuable of all three. And that's all that Bible school was. And they're preparing people to go out and lead churches. It's just such a joke. And so that's why anytime I post on Facebook about my issues with religion, people take it as criticism against the run-of-the-mill Christian. But it all needs to start at the top. In my opinion, every pastor needs to go away and repent for 3 weeks or 10 weeks and then lead his church in just quiet repentance and just start over. But maybe that's because that's kind of what I did in my life. Luke Dixon says, I find I'm at my most spiritual when I'm away from the people and more in nature. Yep. That's why I can't go to church. I've thought about going to church. It's like I can't. You become like the people you're around. And now I'm reading Nietzsche, and he's all about being away from people, and I love it. Daryl Isley loves going to church. Hey, some people do. And you love the Holy Ghost, so maybe you're more of a Pentecostal type, which I've had some great experience at church, so I get it. I'm not trying to tell anybody not to go, or that they shouldn't. I'm just talking about top-down issues that I see. Oh, Dead Wolf. Oh, okay. So, a new sub from the same guy. Craig Curtis, you need bacon and eggs on top of that stove. Yes, I do. But I don't want to buy bacon because I don't like supporting the... I need to find a farm I can buy bacon from, or have my own bacon made, or make my own bacon. But y'all know that I take on projects slowly. So I won't support the store-bought crap. I care too much about ethics of how animals are treated. But I'd love to find a local farmer that makes it. Steve Whitten, heading out now, but a couple weeks ago you were talking about your front door. You could cut your front door in half so you could open just the upper half. Yeah, I thought about that, but this has been working. I put this across the door. In fact, I'm going to do it now. I was going to cut my door in half when I had the goats. That way I could open it up and keep the goats out. But, I don't know. Maybe I should still cut it. Yeah, because I might insulate my door and then I could keep the bottom closed. I might do that. Thanks, Steve. If you're already gone, talk to you later. Arizona traditional, you have a free will to choose right or wrong. Always say God is the perfect gentleman. He will never force his will on anyone. We all have a choice, unlike what some religions teach. Yes, and without going too much on that, another thing is doing right and wrong. We're taught to be guilty over it, and that's not, doing right is our own blessing. Like, we're taught that God is like this insecure father that has to have us obeying him. And that's not true. Obeying him is a blessing to us, not to him. He's complete, doesn't need us. Obeying, living a right life blesses ourselves, and it's for our own benefit. And the church doesn't teach that way. They teach, never had that. I mean, I'm talking in general. There's got to be some exceptions out there. I know there are. Daryl says you are a horseman. Breaking Mustangs is your passion. Well, I've done a good job halter breaking a couple of horses. Maybe I should get a couple and give it a try. But I plan to be gone a lot this year doing comedy. We'll watch you through the good and the bad. Yeah, that would be cool. It'd be good content too, but it'd be a good show. Church owes us money. Well, yeah, gosh. I attended this church called Mars Hill in Seattle, in case anybody's heard of it. It was huge, very influential. A lot of good about it, but a lot of bad. Luke Dixon says, do videos about what you want and the right people will watch. Be you. I gave up pleasing too many people a while back. It knackered me out. Yeah, I've given it up too, and so it's not about people pleasing. It's more about, at this point, I mean, yes, you're right, and I probably will, but at this point, I've brought so many people onto my channel from my history and camping that it's kind of, I don't want it to be like a bait and switch. But it's what I got. Wow, the time and money wasted at Bible school. Yeah. Amen to that, Brad. It's all about love. Yes, it all is about love, ultimately. And that's something else I want to talk about is I'm working on a comedy bit about how the golden rule made me a jerk. Because I like when people are direct with me. And, you know, love others as you love yourself. So I'm very direct with people. And so the golden rule made me a jerk. But I'd like to walk through, because recently there was some criticism about the golden rule, like 6 years ago or 8 years ago now. They were really going after it, and it's it's just obviously dumb, because the golden rule is a really beautiful thing, but it does take some understanding, in my opinion, because I had to start realizing when I was overly nice to people and people would be annoyed, I have to realize, okay, wait, how do I want somebody to treat me? And a lot of times people, believe it or not, being your fullest self, this is what it all comes down to, being your fullest self is the biggest blessing, because I don't want somebody sucking up to me. I hate that. I don't want somebody being rude to me. I want somebody living up their fullest self, so I don't say potential because it's a trendy word, but living to their full potential, because that inspires others. And so if you love others like you love yourself, you would want to be around people who are content and pursuing the best for themselves, because then that inspires others to live for the best that is for themselves. And anyway, I'd like to walk all that through and explain how loving others as you love yourself isn't being overly nice, because only narcissists like people who are being overly nice to them. We want everybody, a normal person wants somebody that they're talking to have a spine and to be confident and to know that they're living with congruency in their life. So, comedy is work of the devil. Books are from the devil too. I did comedy with country music in Seattle to make it digestible for people, and it worked really well. And then the pastor, I'm pretty sure it worked this way. The pastor saw that how effective comedy was, and then he started including comedy in his sermons, and he was hilarious. If you've heard of Mark Driscoll and Mars Hill Fellowship out of Seattle, he was an incredible preacher. Arizona Traditional Outfitter says, having been born into sin, we naturally choose wrong. Yes, Paul states that clearly in the gospel. Yes, we naturally choose wrong. The thing about it is that we have Jesus. The philosophy is that Jesus took away any punishment for the wrong, so the wrong separates us from God as far as like intimacy with God or happiness, but it doesn't send us to punishment like hell, eternal punishment, or anything like that. So I want to do a whole explanation on this, because it ties into mental health and everything. So I hope that my comments don't come across as belittling anybody's reply if I attempt to elaborate, and if it seems like a trite explanation is what I'm trying to say. It's only because I'm trying to keep it succinct right now. I will gladly give it the time and explanation that it deserves. It's tough being an everything channel, but that is the best type of channel. Yeah. When studying how to make a successful YouTube channel, it is not this. A successful YouTube channel, it's really pretty easy. Anybody could do it. You got to put out consistently, preferably at the same time, all the time. Put out good thumbnails, good titles, and put out consistent content. So if I just every week put out camping videos, I'd probably have a huge channel by now. But you guys are all along for the ride of me figuring out things. And that's why I have over 10,000 subscribers and only a few people who watch my live videos. But maybe that'll change someday. The creamer is good. Let's see. Comedy is a work of the devil. Alright. I'm trying to read the comments. Let's see. Still streaming? Nice, yes. Did you go away, Gonzo, Johnny? You might be a bull rider. No, I'm not a bull rider. Daryl, you come up with some funny ideas sometimes. Not a bull rider. I can barely ride a... I ride decent. Like, for somebody that didn't grow up riding, I ride pretty well. I've done archery, as I always tell people, where you ride without reins. But I never learned how to ride out you know, when the horse is pitching and all that. So, I do have to say, I damn sure can get along with a Christian who isn't gonna send me to hell. The only thing that sends us to hell is denying the Savior. Yeah, I've personally come to the point where I don't think that there is such a thing as sending people to hell. And I will one day walk through the rationale for that, but it doesn't make sense if you believe in grace, which grace is the main concept of Christianity that makes it beautiful. And I wonder if we've got any atheists listening, or at least agnostics, because I try to talk about Christianity as a philosophy so that everybody can be involved, so that people who, and I've looked into this stuff. It is hard. There's some reasonable reasons to not believe, and so I try to talk about this stuff in a way that everybody can, if they don't want to believe in that Jesus even existed, that's fine, because we can still talk about the philosophy about it and what works as far as philosophy is concerned. And I think that God, if he exists, is strong enough to handle that. He's not an insecure man up in the sky, as I was taught to believe. Had to watch another stream about chlorine dioxide. If you're talking to me, please explain. Hell is a church concept. I think so too, and that's one of the things that, especially now where we see the government just outright, they're getting more and more blatant about how to control the masses. They've been doing it for a long time, but they're becoming more and more apparent, and maybe that's because of the existence of the internet. And so when you start to see all these mentalities that the government has to control people, and then when you look at religion, you start to see it plain as day, like, okay, that's pretty clearly a concept used that doesn't come from the Bible, but comes from people that are trying to keep the peasants in line. And that's one way that I question things. And hell is an obvious one. If you wanted people to slave away for you voluntarily, like the peasant class, and keep them in line, tell them, well, if you sacrifice now, then you'll be repaid in the afterlife. If you don't sacrifice now, well, then you'll go to eternal torment. And by the way, you also should probably give us a big percentage of your money. And so you see the Catholic Church with all these riches, all this wealth, and the peasants out there fearful for their eternal lives, slaving away. When I went and visited Rome, and I went over to the Pope's house, whatever, the church over there, it was disgusting to me. I hear like Joe Rogan talking about how beautiful it is, and other people talking about how beautiful it is, and it is impressive, like the paintings on the ceiling and stuff, but it just made my stomach turn, because I had just come from St. Francis's town of Assisi, and I was focused on St. Francis's teachings, and then I went to Rome and saw the contrast, and I was like, this is pathetic, that they used all this religion and all this wealth to control the peasants who are out there dying and living in poverty. It just made me sick. I didn't even stay for very long. I didn't even go to see the Sistine Chapel. It was more like my middle finger to their greed and their monument to consumerism and greed. Dumber the content, the more subs. Yeah. Gosh, I can't stand Jake Paul. And yet I can see why people watch him, because he's puts out that garbage. And his brother isn't. I mean, you can't say they're idiots. I think they're just manipulating people and making bank off of it. So I won't say they're idiots. They're whores selling out for views. I can't stand those guys. Well, I don't think they're horrible people either. I mean, I think Jake could have. I think he could have started pounding on Tyson. I know that opens up a whole nother can of worms on discussion, but there in the last rounds, I think he could have pounded on Tyson, and he didn't. I thought he was pretty respectful, so I don't think he's like a horrible guy. I think he's a content whore. In the Spirit of the West says, this is the conversation I've been looking to have with someone for a long time. Would love to hear more. Oh, cool. Well, I'm glad to hear that. I will keep talking about it. And I keep putting off this video that I want to get into this stuff. I want to use, for some reason, I'm going to start with the Wealth of Nations, an introduction video. And why, to demonstrate why capitalism isn't an integral part of America. And every time I say that, I have to say that doesn't mean I'm into socialism or communism. Those are worse. Those are worse than capitalism. But I think that it's important to critique oneself, and that's where I'm coming from. So that's where I keep planning to start, but I've been hesitant to do it. But from the feedback on here, maybe I'll get into it. And that'll be the beginning of this kind of videos. Brad says, I don't know what I am. I just live my life. A lot of my other friends are the same. Yeah, well, and you are living life. And I love that, Brad. That's what's favorite thing about you. You just go out and live. And that's the main thing. Deleted says, Deist, I do believe there is gods and goddesses, higher powers that have created and control all this beautiful mess. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, to me it seems like there's a God. And I'll get into why. I've got thoughts on all this stuff. I could be going on for hours and hours right now. But I want to go into what a good interpretation or approach to God is. Because we've come to understand God as this judgmental man in the sky. And what I see on Reddit and stuff when atheists critique God, it's kind of that vision that we've created of him. And we've taken away all the mystery of him. But in reality, God started as a mystery. Humans didn't understand him, and so they developed, it's more of a humble approach. They developed, look, we can't understand this, so we're going to put it into terms that we understand. Or, if you want to say, God put it into terms that humans could understand. Like, you understand humans, you understand a father, so I'm going to relate my way to you as a father, but it doesn't fully describe God. It gives us like a child's understanding and a way to relate to God, but it doesn't describe God. But through the years, we've taken it to fully describe God, and then there's no mystery left. And it's stupid, it's arrogant, and it's folly. And I want to see people return to approach of, first off, we don't know God. And this is the way that, like children, we explain him because we're incapable of understanding the fullness. But I'll walk through that someday. It's also very helpful with numerous diseases. What's helpful with numerous diseases? Jeff Ramlin says, just like any good thing, it is soon corrupted by opportunists. Yep, for sure. For sure. And that's why communism is horrible. Because it's soon corrupted by opportunists. Basically brings more oxygen to your body. I don't know what you're talking about. Cheap and miraculous. Now it sounds like you're talking about whiskey. Non-big pharma, unlike HCQ or ivermectin. Hey, Jacob. Jacob, my Denmarkian friend. Luke Dixon says, maybe test out a second channel, one with your views on the world, philosophy, and the modern world. You know, I thought about doing a second channel, but the thing is, um, uh, the thing is, a lot of people don't watch my videos anyway. Like I said last week, scroll back, look at my most recent camping videos. I put out camping videos, which is what people subscribe for. They were good videos, and some of them, or one of them, only has like 2,000 views. One of them has 12,000. I want my bare minimum to at least be my subscriber count on my camping videos, but a couple of them are under that. And so I'm thinking to myself, well, if they're not even watching my camping videos, then there's no reason I need to cater this channel to 11,000 people that aren't even watching my camping videos. And so when the people who watch my shows like this, the people who are devoted to my channel and enjoy this stuff, there's no reason that we have to go to another channel. I hope that is clear. Nick Bandick says, you hear quail in the background. Yes, tons of them. Come on out. The only place I don't want to shoot quail is right around my cabin, but they're all over the place. Guns with Johnny likes your view. That's cool. I've deleted. Harry Anderson says most organized religion is not so far from Jim Jones. Yeah, I watched some Jim Jones videos the other day. Some interviews of people that survived it. I personally think the CIA was in on that, and things that I saw when I was in grade school. I think the government was really working on how to manipulate the masses at that time, and I think that we see the results of that now. I think that we are so manipulated and we don't even know it. Not to be like at conspiracy levels, but the media and TV and school, the way they all work together, and it's stupid to think that they wouldn't be. Like the government, like Rome, going all the way back to Sumer, it's always been an issue of how do we keep the masses appeased so that they don't revolt. And how do we keep them in line so that we can stay in power and make money? That's what governments have always been about, whether it's monarchies or republics might be an exception, but they're short-lived and easy to topple. Daryl says, never had a friend that didn't betray you. Yes, agreed. Which is why I think Christianity is great in that it believes that all people are sinful versus these dang utopian type people, the utopian philosophy, the communist philosophy that believes that the whole nature versus nurture thing. Christianity essentially believes nature is why is that everybody is corrupt. And there's a lot of freedom in that. Once you admit they're corrupt. Everybody I talk to is going to be a corrupt person. I'm a corrupt person. Well, now suddenly there's freedom in that. And then add to that, oh, and by the way, you're also forgiven. Sacrifice has been made. All of your sins are forgiven. Now we can start walking. Doggone it. Now we can start walking freely. And I think you've seen that that's my attitude that I live by in my channel. And what a lot of people like about my channel is I always say, my channel is about me going out and failing while camping. Because I have accepted that I'm imperfect. And then there's freedom in walking in that. So that's my synopsis on Christianity. Faith can be an amazing thing. Organized religion, not so much. I agree. Organized religion could be an amazing thing if it weren't for the opportunists, as the other person aptly put it. Gotta run, amigo. Great live. I'm all in. And let it be known I love Jesus and thankful he died for me. Amen. And rose again. His grace is sufficient for me. Amen. Talk to you later, Arizona Traditional Outfitters. The whole concept of Jesus, whether real or made up, it's a beautiful philosophy. And like I say, I like to talk that way so that even people who don't believe in Jesus can consider the philosophy of it without having to be like betray their conscience of what they think is true and not. Brad says, so that's what I mean. Sellouts. If I sold out or followed the rules, I'd probably be bigger. But yep. Yeah, and I appreciate that about you, Brad. I tried to bring you into a buddy and I who were really developing our channels, and you weren't interested, and I respect that. And then I kind of went that way too. I quit trying to grow my channel, and I've been happy about that. Deleted says he loves most of George Carlin on religion and politics, probably all of George's religion stuff. Yes, George Carlin. I've been listening to him a little bit too, and yeah, he does the same thing. He critiques religion as he sees it, which is a good critique, but it's not like what Christianity really is at the heart of it. But it's a valid critique, as I will repeat 1,000 times, because that's very common. But like I say, I think that we need to sort out what real Christianity is. I'm working on sorting out this. What does it mean to be a human? And within being a human, what is our animal behavior? And in our animal behavior, what is good animal behavior that we need to keep? And what is good animal behavior that we need to not keep? Like when you've got animals on a farm, rape is normal. I shouldn't say that because maybe YouTube's going to... Grappling is normal. As humans, it's bad. It's wrong. So that's right there, just an obvious one of we're animals, but there's animal behavior that we need to get rid of. But then there's also animal behavior that's not horrible. I don't have a good example right now. I mean, if you want to be super simple, like, well, eating. We all eat. Animals don't cook their food. Humans cook their food. So there's an animal behavior that we should keep as eating, but cooking our food is a human behavior that we should also keep. So we need to sort out, what does it mean to be a human? And what is the behavior to keep? What is the animal behavior to not keep? And I believe the beauty of being human is that we are able to rationalize and do good. Like I said, our sexual practices can be made beautiful for everybody and not animal practices. And that's why this woke ideology, it's like it's trying to take humans into just full-on animal mode. And over on the wild side, you would think that I'd be one to embrace the wild, but I don't fully. And this has been a great experiment of going wild and being able to ask, well, how far do I want to go, and what's good and what's not good. So anyway, you got to break down, what does it even mean to be a human? What animal behaviors to keep, what animal behaviors not to keep. And then what's Christianity? What's Christianity now? What was in Christianity intended to be? And that is a difficult one, because that brings up the whole question of, well, do humans grow in our knowledge, or were we smarter way back 2,000 years ago and we need to go back to that? It's a question. I don't try to have answers. I try to have good questions. And so religion. And then America. What's Western civilization? What part of it is good? What part of it's bad? What makes it Western civilization? And what part of Western civilization is unique to it? Or what part of it is just what people do typically when they create a civilization? Because there's been civilizations all over the world. South America, Asia, and the West are like primarily the ones. And so what behaviors do we see that are typical among civilizations, and then what behaviors do we see that's unique to Western civilization, so that we can sort that out? And then what behaviors of Western civilization have leaked into religion, and what part of religion is good, and what part of it is just animal behavior that we should undo. And that part ties into what's Christianity truly intended to be, and what has it become to support the state, to uphold the state, and to make popes and cardinals rich. That's all the stuff I'm working on. That's where my brain goes every day. And that's just the touching on it. Yes, I do. Chlorine dioxide. I don't remember that. I don't know what that was about. Or not. Yeah, I don't know that I saw that one. I think I would remember if I had seen chlorine dioxide. Or I missed it. I think I see all the comments. Um, I pretty much catch up on them, but I could miss some. Luke Dixon says, "Oh mate, they don't know what they missing quality over quantity subscriber wise." Yeah, there's some great educational videos out there that are well worth their. Ryan is one of them. I had a hard time with his channel at first because I thought he was going to be really political and just subtle about it. But Ryan Chapman, pretty sure that's his name. He's got some killer videos. I mean, he's not perfect, obviously, but he comes at it from pretty non-biased and tackles some really interesting stuff. See, look at how small this fire is. Side thing, really quick. If I had the door closed, I've got it open for light. If I had the door closed, that would be plenty of heat. I'd shut the door and it would probably burn for another half hour. At this point, I would probably put another surge. Oops. In other words, it's plenty to keep it warm. All right, let's see. It's so hard just to build and maintain one channel. Yeah. I'm actively uploading on my main channel. Yeah, that's true. It is. It's hard enough to just keep one channel going. If I ever have a producer, somebody who helps me with my channel, that would be cool. Then maybe I would do too. But Gonzo Johnny, I see what you're saying there about Carlin. However, as a comedian, I've been listening to him to study his style, and he definitely is a comedian. He's funny. Like, I've written down a lot of stuff that I want to do. Like, currently I focus on jokes. Like, I like jokes. I like Norm Macdonald, who just goes out to be funny. But there's stuff I want to make jokes about, but I don't know how yet. So I've been studying Carlin's style, and he really is funny. And I mean, he was cool in that he critiqued society, but he was really good at what he did at making it funny. But yes, he is reality. So I get what you're saying. Guns are Johnny. The fun part is all the laughing people who don't understand. He's serious. He was serious, but he says he puts in plenty of jokes intentionally, which is the best way to put across truths is with comedy. That's how, like, I had a really neat experience in Seattle playing country music. Like I say, it was before Johnny Cash put out the song "Hurt," which, if you were alive then and old enough, you know that "Hurt" really brought Johnny Cash back into the mainstream. So it was before that. It was before "Oh Brother Where Art Thou." "Oh Brother Where Art Thou" was also huge for country music because suddenly it gave this credibility to old time music, which I was already doing. So I was doing old time country music before those events occurred, and country music was the least favorite music style in Seattle, like big time. If you wanted to go somewhere to get away from country music, you would go to Seattle. So there I was in Seattle doing country music, and the way I did it was with a lot of comedy, and it worked. And it was a neat experience. If I talk too much about it, it'll sound like I'm bragging, but maybe like I've talked to people who saw me, and it's not just me making stuff up. And I didn't get huge, like I didn't perform all over Seattle or anything, but it was well received. I got to play for some punk bands. Like punk was was pretty big over there. It was post grunge, and but all of my shows were a success. So anyway, point is, comedy is how you put across stuff. Okay, finally getting to this comment that I saw. Well, Sadegh Babe, hello from Iran. Hello to Iran. That's freaking awesome. I would love to visit Iran for the history, or for the if anybody is there living the nomadic lifestyle, herding sheep. But I think Iran's totally closed off to Americans, which sucks. Gonzo Johnny says he has his own church, the Church of Hypocrisy. Most people attend without knowing. Yes, they do. I was going to say that's the mainstream church. Someday I'll share my experiences with being all the hatred that I got to see from the mainstream church. And I'm very grateful for it. I wouldn't undo it. A lot of gossiping and spreading lies. And it was very eye-opening to the fruits of our churches. Harry Andrews says, if you want to be successful in camping, watch some camping videos from people with a large following, for ideas. Yeah, honestly, I think if I would just put out my camping videos regularly, I think my channel would be huge. But I kept running into problems with my animals, and ultimately I think that was fate steering me, because I really think that comedy is the place for me. And I wouldn't have done it, especially if I was deep into making my camping channel a hit. Like if I had been putting out camping videos consistently and up to 100,000 viewers, then, I would have felt pretty committed to that. But I was following my intuition and didn't pursue all that stuff, and also screwed stuff up by getting animals. The chickens, I always talk about that, how they were the first ones to be unable to go. Gonzo Johnny says, look up to the waters of heaven as below, so above. Jesus does walk on water, but it's metaphorically. Elaborate on that, Gonzo, to see what you're saying. The cross is this time Christmas, when the sun is at its lowest point and crosses over to come back. Highest point, yearly rebirth. Oh, yeah. Yeah, death and rebirth is a huge... Well, it's an agrarian thing, too, and it's a nomadic thing. It's just a very natural thing, the whole death and rebirth. And that's why we need to put our lives to death and live. And that doesn't mean, like taking up the cross, that doesn't mean going out and living a sucky life. It means sacrificing what you think your life is supposed to be for what it can be. That's my way of putting it. Same thing happened when I went to Seattle. I really wanted to play Johnny Cash music. I was living in Spokane. And then I felt like moving to Seattle was the thing to do. And I thought, well, I'm going to give up all my music, but it feels like the thing to do. And then, no, my music took off. I mean, I wasn't huge. I don't want to put off the like any lies as though I was out touring around Seattle all the time. But my experience within music was a big deal to me. And I thought that I was going to have to give it up. And that's just one example. But even better example was letting go of my real estate license. And like I tell people, letting go of that first client that I let go. Somebody wanted me to list their house. And if you know about real estate, listing a house is easy money. This house was, it was very sellable. It didn't have anything glaringly wrong with it that would keep it from selling right away. The market was still hot. It was like a $350,000 house, which means I would have put in my pocket about $12,000 for very little work. But I let it go because deep down I felt like, you know what? I don't want to do that anymore. And I didn't no, I don't want to do this. It just kind of let it go because I couldn't bring myself to to say no. But when I did, I felt way better. It was weird. Like, who would give up $12,000, an easy $12,000 in their right mind? And I did, and I felt so much better. And then the next one came. I was like, I think I'll pass on it. And then another one came, and after that, it was like, I feel so much better giving all this up, and I let my license go in, I think it was like January 2020 is when I let my license go. And like I say, it's just an intuitional thing that you got to learn to follow. And that's where I took up my cross. I sacrificed my life, this life of that I had, and moved into this life in a deeper way. And I have found my life, to use all the Christianity terms. And you don't get that from Christianity. I never got that. It was always about go out and live this crappy life that you don't want to live, and that's sacrificing your life. And I'm putting it in my terms, but that's essentially what I got from church. And I went to a lot of different churches. And but the real sacrifice your life is give up the life that you think you're living, and even if you think it's good, it's not. Another thing that we went through was like they really emphasized people on drugs or living this sinful life, which then creates this idea that if you attend church and you're not doing that stuff, then you're living a good life. All that's just BS, because you can be going to church all the time and not living your life for God. And it's more of what I just explained, how you got to give up the life that you think is for you and jump into the life that you're scared of, but that you feel is the right one. And you find out that that's where you're walking with God. And that's where all the verses of Proverbs about God makes my paths straight before me, or I can't remember them right now, but that's where you find blessing. Blessing isn't an easy life. Blessing is a blessed life, where there's dignity in suffering, there's dignity in continuing it, and there's a want to continue it. It's very different. It's not what most people experience, I don't believe, because I've been in church and people were just as empty there as anywhere else I've seen them. And I was certainly empty. And not everybody. A lot of neat people in church, so I want to keep iterating that. The ancients were much further ahead. They were not brainwashed into believing everything needs to be material. Yeah, Gonzo Johnny's recalling my question that I brought up. But as far as their theology, but yeah, there is a lot to be said for the ancients. However, the ancients, are we talking people who lived within the Babylonian empire? Because that was a society, a civilization. Or are we talking about the ancient nomadic people? And that's where the Israelites were so unique, because they were formed, they were formed initially from I believe from a sheep herder. Was Moses's, wait. Yeah, anyway, I won't go into that right now. Can't remember the names well enough. But anyway, the Israelites are an interesting people, because they were brought out to worship God from slavery, and then they wandered the desert. So they were nomadic and very agrarian, and then they took over. They were conquerors, and then they built cities. And so they have this very rounded culture, and so out of that came a neat perspective, and unique from all of those around them. All right, let's see. Lots of comments here. And my phone's almost dead, so I'm gonna have to zip through these comments and then shut it off because my battery's almost dead. I don't think I can plug it in and still get volume. A yearly rebirth, but we're over 2 hours anyway. All right, the ancients. All right, exactly, Gonzo. To have a good and simple life, need to stop being progressive. Stop being progressive as far as technology, or progressive as far as woke progressive, Harry? Please clarify. Daryl Isaac says, I think Jim Jones was a heck of a preacher. I guess I will never hear the full story. It's interesting. There's people who survived, and they have interviews, and they talk about their experience there on YouTube, in case you want to look into those, Daryl, if you haven't before. I was listening to them the other day. Yeah, popular country is just garbage. I mean, there's a few people I like. Like I think Alan Jackson has a few good songs, and that guy who died recently should have been a cowboy. He had some cool songs, but mostly modern country is just garbage, and it was garbage back then too. But even so, there's still a few songs that I enjoy. Alice in Chains is my favorite country western music from the country of America, way out in West Seattle, way out west in Seattle. Is Alice in Chains from Seattle? Blessed are the poor. Blessed are the poor in spirit, not the poor. Guns of Johnny says, so give all the money to your high priest, though. Yeah, exactly. That's pretty much what they lead us to believe. I need a new chopper. Oh no, I'm a reefer head. I'm so evil. Are you smoking the reefer, Brad? Daryl Isley said, I don't smoke. The only drug I do is coffee, and occasionally I drink alcohol sometimes. Pretty much only if I'm performing, and after that. No, never sang that song. All I Want Is My Butterbeans. Never even heard it. Not that I recall. Jeff Ramlin says, I've reached my destination. My great granddaughter's by. Awesome. Have a great time, Jeff. You're a blessed man. If you're a blessed man, have a great granddaughter. Have fun. All right, and I just got my phones telling me I'm at 10% battery. So I'm going to sign off, guys. This has been amazing. Appreciate everybody that's come along here. And this has been fun. Appreciate all the comments, questions, and we'll meet again. Marl Haggard is freaking awesome. Actually, reefer is advised by the old Christianity. One of them things. Oh, okay. Cheers. Cheers. Yep. Luke, Gonzo Johnny. It's been great. All right, everybody. Have a great weekend. Remember, life's a lot more fun over on the wild side.